Hey guys, I thought I'd shoot a real quick video just to show if you have one of these boards. It's pretty common in the Ballet Williams games that have these little 555 sockets that are on these boards, and over time the solder joints will, you'll have little cracked solder joints. See, I don't know if you can see that one right there, but that one's got a cold solder joint, and just over time, especially with the incandescent bulbs in them, and this is actually off of a Judge Dredd that I'm doing a restoration for David at Flippers, and one of the legs, if you can see that, has broken off of this socket. So before doing a complete shop job, I like to pull these boards off and kind of reflow the solder and just check the sockets. Sometimes the sockets inside these little things will break off inside and they'll be loose. So I just like to go back in and kind of clean them up and put them back together. But one of the ways, I mean, you can get these new sockets from, I believe, Pinball Life or Marco or anybody like that. But one of the things I like to do is just kind of go in and clean up the legs. Oh, there go my dogs. Sorry about that. They like to bark at anything. I'm sure that was just a caterpillar walking across the driveway that they needed to alert us to. But anyways, just kind of clean up the legs. And the way I like to repair it is sometimes when you're doing like cap kits and stuff like that, if you go afterwards and cut off all the little long leads on the back of the boards, like when you're doing a I don't know, cap kit on a monitor chassis or something like that, you always have these little metal things left over, and they're perfect for doing repairs like this. So what I've already done is pulled the solder off, and I'm going to put the socket back in there. But what I like to do first is, all right, figure out which side. So that's going to go like that, and we need to have this on this side. So I'll just stick that down in the hole, and I've just got a standard, solder pullet, whatever you want to call it, solder sucker. There's a lot different ways to do it. Some people use solder wick. This thing has always worked great for me, and there are many other types. You can spend hundreds of dollars on, mechanized ones that suck the solder off, but I don't really do it that much that I feel like, and this always works for me. So now I'm just going to kind of solder that little leg in there, and just enough to kind of hold it on there, and then we will turn it over, and you can see I've got like a little leg there. It's been a little funky, but that's okay. We'll bend it out of the way, and then we'll stick the original socket back on there. And if you leave enough on when you clean it up, it'll kind of hold it in there for you. Sometimes you have to put a little something underneath it. I like to put like my little side cutters underneath there just to give it something to rest on while I solder. And just touch up the solder. I don't know if you can see what I'm actually soldering here, but there's already some solder on this one, so we'll just kind of reflow it, put some fresh on there. And the same with this one. We'll just kind of freshen up the solder, make it all pretty. And then we'll check and make sure, and see that's in there. That's in there pretty solid, but we need to, oh, I think I soldered the wrong one, didn't I? No, I did the right one. But now we need to make the connection on that leg. And basically what I'm going to do is just kind of add some solder along that rail right there. And sometimes it does help if you want to use some flux, soldering flux, which, I just had this Radio Shack, good old-fashioned Radio Shack stuff, if you still have a Radio Shack. We do, but it's kind of hit or miss as far as what they have. But put just a tiny bit of flux on there to help flow some solder, and try and get this at an angle that I can kind of work with here. And we'll just kind of heat that up a little bit and just flow some solder. Try not to melt the socket. And just kind of flow some on there and get it where it will stick to the leg. That's all we're really trying to do. As you can see, when I heat it up, if you're not real careful, it will loosen your repair piece in the board itself, but just kind of flow some on there. Do a little bit at a time, come back, check the work. See, and that's on there pretty decent. I mean, that's a lot tighter than it was before, and that leg is actually giving it a little bit more stiffness, some rigidity to hold it on there. And these things, over time, people pulling bulbs in and out. I mean, 555, look, that socket right there is just putting up a hell of a fight to get that bulb out. So, of course, over time, that's going to cause damage to the socket and the solder joints. So just wanted to show that's a fairly simple and easy way. I'm going to trim off that excess when I'm happy with the way it looks, and just go along and probably reflow the solder on all of these and just make sure everything's tight. But just wanted to put that out there. That's an easy way to fix it. Sometimes, instead of replacing everything, it's better just to go with what you got. So thanks for watching.